Hello and welcome to Non-Toxic Nerd, home of movies, TV, comics, and games. Today we're going to be looking at the first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This video will be spoiler heavy, so if you haven't seen the episode, go watch that first and come right on back. If you have seen it or you just don't care, then let's get started. This video is not going to be as scripted as the first video that I released. I'm reading off of notes that I've made, so bear with me if there's some awkward pauses. I'll try to edit out as many of those as I can. I'm just trying to remember the episode and where my notes line up to it. So let's get started. Right off the bat, we have a rescue mission. Sam is rescuing some military personnel, one military leader in particular who has been kidnapped. We see Georges St. Pierre reprise his role as Batroc the Leaper, who has kidnapped this military personnel with his team. We do get to see him in his comic book accurate colors, not the costume yet, so we'll see if we get to see the ridiculous comic book costume. Probably not going to happen. He is in a wingsuit for a lot of this, though. It's a great opening action scene. We get to meet Sam's military liaison, contact, informant, whatever you want to call him, Lieutenant Torres. We'll talk about him in a little bit. We also get to see some very creative uses of Red Wing, the drone that attaches to Sam's wingsuit. We haven't seen him since Civil War, so it's nice to have that little callback. It's really good quality, this opening sequence. We get some missiles being launched. We got helicopters exploding. We've got some aerial acrobatics from Sam. So really good opening scene. Minor spoiler here, Batroc seems to get away. He jumps out of an exploding helicopter in a wingsuit. We don't see him after that, so hopefully a recurring character. I'd like to see some more recurring villains, since that's not something we have gotten in the MCU a whole lot of. We then cut to a scene in Tunisia. Lieutenant Torres and Sam are debriefing. Sam's working on Red Wing from some minor battle damage. Lieutenant Torres brings up the Flag Smashers, which is a terrorist group that wants to get rid of world governments and borders. This seems to be a reference to the Flag Smasher, who is a character from the comics, basically the anti-Captain America. So will we see this as the terrorist organization, or are we going to see the actual Flag Smasher, the character? More on that later, some theories and some speculation on what we're going to be seeing there. We also have Torres ask Sam about Cap on a moon base. This is possible references to a few things. First, we have the Inhumans. They have a base on the moon. Marvel took a swing at them a few years ago in a limited TV series. I haven't seen it yet. We might do a video on it here. I've heard horrible things about it, and so have you probably, but we'll maybe take a look at that. There's also the original Sin run where Nick Fury becomes the Watcher and is imprisoned on the moon and has to watch he's basically watching over Earth. And then there actually is a 90s comic called The Last Avengers where Captain America does become the president, survives an assassination attempt, and is recovering on the moon. So lots of things that this could be referencing. Speaking of Torres, his character could possibly be a reference to Joaquin Torres from the comics, who takes on the Falcon moniker. So it's interesting to see who or where we're going with Lieutenant Torres' story over this. We then see a ceremony where Sam is retiring the shield that was given to him by Steve Rogers to the Smithsonian exhibit on Captain America. First thing I thought when they put the shield in a glass case is it's going to get stolen. Anytime you put anything of value in a glass case, it's probably going to get stolen. We'll talk more about that later. I also noticed some Fallen Sun comparisons. If you haven't read Fallen Sun, it's a comic run after Civil War where Captain America has been assassinated and Tony Stark really wants a new Captain America as a symbol. He tries to recruit Clint Barton, who has been on the run from the law, wants to give him a second chance at legitimate life to be Captain America. And so I noticed a lot of comparison as Rhodey and Sam are walking through the Smithsonian exhibit that we saw actually in Captain America Civil War. And Rhodey, he doesn't outright try to convince Sam to be Captain America, but just kind of presses him on why he didn't accept the role and maybe he should have. And Sam, it's pretty clear Sam believes that Captain America, the symbol, is nothing without Steve Rogers, the man. We then cut to a Winter Soldier mission. It appears to be in the past. He has the metal arm showing. He has the face mask on. We actually hear the Winter Soldier theme from Captain America Winter Soldier, so a nice little callback there. He ends up killing a witness to him murdering a bunch of other Russian thugs. More on that later. We do find out that that is a dream. He awakens from his dream and we find him or nightmare, I guess, but we find him sleeping on the floor, which seems like a callback to when Sam and Steve Rogers talked about how it's hard to sleep in a bed when you get back from combat, how it kind of feels like a marshmallow. We then get to see a great scene with Bucky and his shrink. It is mentioned that he has been pardoned and he is a civilian, so raises the question, how will he be teaming up with Sam if he is a civilian? We then get a sequence as Bucky is talking to his therapist about how he's trying to make amends. He has a list that he's trying to make amends with from his Winter Soldier days. We get to see a scene play out with a Senator Atwood, who is a hydropon, who he was able to help install as a U.S. Senator. He's collecting some evidence, turning her over to the feds, and crosses her name off his list. As he's doing this, we get to see his list of names that he needs to make amends with, and a couple of standouts here. First, we have an A. Rostov, also known as the Red Barbarian in the comics. This is an old Iron Man bad guy. He appears to have been the warden of a gulag that Bucky served time in, probably during World War II, maybe before he became Winter Soldier. We'll see how that plays into this, but yeah. So Andrei Rostov is a bad guy from the old Iron Man days. Tries to steal some tech, tries to assassinate Tony. None of that goes well for him. The next name we see is P.W. Hauser. This seems to be referring to Paul Walterhauser, who is an actual real-life actor and comedian. He was most recently in Richard Jewell, the Clint Eastwood movie from a couple years ago. He's actually really close friends with Sebastian Stan, and the two work together on I, Tonya. So probably nothing will come of it, just a fun little callback to the real world. We also see an H. Zemo, obviously referring to Helmut Zemo from Captain America Civil War. We do see what seems to be a confrontation between the two in one of the trailers. So we'll see where we're going to go with this. Zemo is confirmed to be appearing in this. So how is this going to work out? Is he tracking him down to apologize for something? I'm not sure where. Remembering from Captain America Civil War, Zemo is mostly after the Avengers, not so much Bucky. He was just using Bucky. So maybe Bucky needs some reconciliation between how he was being used by Zemo. So that'll be an interesting storyline to see play out. We also see an L. Kaminsky and an M. Kaminsky. Not sure about the M. Kaminsky, but L. Kaminsky seems to be referring to Len Kaminsky, who was a writer and editor for Marvel Comics. He helped develop the Cthulhu mythos for Marvel Comics, kind of their version of it. He also did some work on Iron Man and War Machine runs. The last name I know of note that I noticed was a C. Kuznetsov. Seems to be referring to an old Iron Man villain. Well, an old Iron Man reference. This Soviet doctor created an artificial intelligence sentient robot known as Udarnik. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. But he was told to destroy it. He didn't. He sent it into space. Eventually gets in a fight with Iron Man. So we'll be interested to see how where that, I mean, are we going to see Bucky cross each of these names off his list? Is this going to be part of the series? It'll be fun to see, because it looks like we're going to get into the personal struggles of a lot of these characters. Are we going to get to see Bucky reconcile with his past? After Bucky's visit with his shrink, we then get to see a nice little friendship he has with an old Japanese man named Yuri. That is probably going to get ruined. It's made pretty clear right off the bat that the witness that the Winter Soldier murdered earlier in the dream sequence is the son of Yuri. It is a nice way to tie Bucky's past to his present, and how he said in his fight with Tony Stark in Civil War, how he remembers everybody he assassinated. He was just brainwashed, so he had no control over the situation. Or did he? I guess we'll find out in this series here. So really, a storyline I hope gets resolved nicely. We'll talk more about that later. We then cut to a scene with Sam meeting up with his family, his sister. First thing I noticed, he doesn't drive a nice car. He's not driving the latest Audi or whatever. Marvel has a contract with whatever car company. It's an older Dodge pickup, so it's kind of nice to see a more relatable hero who isn't driving the newest, latest technology. We hear his sister Sarah, her kids call him Uncle Sam. Kind of a nice call out. Is that foreshadowing Sam taking over the mantle of Captain America? We'll see. Looks like they're at a harbor, a pier. They're maybe packing some fish. They come from looks like a fishing family. The name on the boat nearby is Paul and Darlene. These are actually Sam and Sarah's parents from the comics. Sarah also is in the comics very sparingly, but she is there. It's also revealed in this scene that Sam is from Louisiana, which is different from the comics where he was born and raised in Harlem. So like I said a little bit ago, we're going to see a lot of the personal struggles of these characters. We get some infighting here between Sam and his sister about selling the boat. Both their parents are dead. They left them both the boat and their childhood home. More on that later. We're going to talk about another scene that touches on this a little bit more. But looks like this series is going to show us the actual personal lives and struggles of our main characters. We're then back with Bucky. He's on a date. We kind of get to see some of the dating struggles that we didn't get to see with Cap that Steve Rogers described. Things like online dating, being significantly older than your date. Bucky actually mentions being 106 years old, so things like that. Something else I noticed was when a police siren went off in the background, Bucky's looking over his shoulder. So he's still kind of getting used to not being on the run, getting used to civilian life, and kind of adjusting to not having to literally look over his shoulder. The conversation on the date turns to Yuri and his son. This causes Bucky to leave pretty abruptly. He goes to Yuri's apartment. He doesn't come out and say, "I killed your son, Yuri," but it is confirmed that the witness the Winter Soldier murdered is Yuri's son. He's got a little shrine set up with the kid's picture, the man's picture. So it's confirmed. We then see that Yuri's name is on Bucky's list. So this will probably be the overarching. If we're going to see any name crossed off the list during this series, it will be Yuri's. We're probably going to have to confront this at some time. I'm probably just as anxious as Bucky is about this right now, because I really want to see this relationship, this friendship, be redeemed. We then get to see the Flag Smashers in action via Lieutenant Torres. He's going undercover in Switzerland. There's a little group of people outside a bank. We see a lady in a Flag Smasher's mask, which is just a black face mask with a red handprint on it, come through the crowd and start handing out more masks. And we're going to talk about this more later, but the bank alarm goes off. We see a man jump from the second story window with 2 big bags of, I'm assuming, cash. We see him Spartan kick a cop into a building, or a light post. Clearly an enhanced being. So how many enhanced are there? That's the only one we see right now. Is there more? This kind of raises questions on how this is happening and when this happened. We then transition to a scene at a different bank with Sam and Sarah getting denied a loan to be able to keep the boat that they were arguing about selling earlier. The ensuing conversation shows that race relations will be a topic in this series. And while I want this channel to kind of avoid political issues, just because there's a lot of that, you can go to a lot of other channels to talk about that with a lot smarter people. It is important to remember that comics have always touched on social issues of the time that they were published. So we will address this when it is appropriate on this channel. We'll talk about it when it comes up. But like I said, I am not smart enough to delve into, historic, systemic, anything. I'm just here to talk about comics and movies and TV. Lots of other channels you can go check out if you want to go learn more about that kind of stuff. The episode ends with Lieutenant Torres contacting Sam about his dust-up with the Flag Smashers and himself getting smashed by their what he assumes to be leader, the Enhanced. And then we also see the reveal of John Walker. He is introduced as the new Captain America on a live television broadcast. He's known as U.S. Agent in the comics, so we're going to see. Looks like he's going to be Captain America for a while. Maybe if Sam is able to take the Captain America name and title, maybe then he becomes U.S. Agent. So that will be an interesting story to see play out. All right, and then that's the end of the show. So just some notes from the credits that I noticed. Of course, we have Kevin Feige and Louis D'Esposito returning as executive producers. They've been producing on all things Marvel since the first Iron Man. So it's good to see some continuity, and you really can tell throughout the first episode the continuity that's taking place. I mentioned at the top of the episode, I think, about the music sounding very Captain America from Captain America the Winter Soldier. You get that vibe just from the soundtrack. So, of course, we have Henry Jackman returning. He did the soundtrack for the Winter Soldier. He's back doing the music for the series, at least the first episode he's credited for. So I'm a sucker for a good soundtrack. I think that can make a movie or a TV show better or worse, depending on how good the soundtrack is. So it's good to see a tried and true composer returning to do music on this property. So talking about the Flag Smashers, Erin Kellyman, who was in Solo, A Star Wars Story, she receives top billing right after Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, and then Wyatt Russell as U.S. Agent. She comes right after that, her name. She appeared as the woman who was handing out the Flag Smasher masks earlier at the bank robbery scene. So kind of leads me to believe that maybe she's the leader of the Flag Smashers, not the enhanced guy that we saw kick the crap out of Lieutenant Torres. So already we're getting some subterfuge and maybe some misleading. The only other thing I saw in the credits was the Winter Soldier code words appearing. So maybe some foreshadowing. Maybe we get to see, or maybe we'll have to see Bucky revert back to his brainwashing. We'll see how that plays out. Overall, this was a good first episode. We get to see the personal struggles of the leads. Looks like the Flag Smashers are going to be the main villains. Maybe we're going to see the actual Flag Smasher. Someone will take that title. You can really feel Sam's anger at seeing John Walker introduced as Captain America with the shield he had just retired. So, not getting stolen from the glass case in the sense that there was going to be a heist, but stolen in the sense that somebody who doesn't deserve it will be using it. I'm really looking forward to see the story between Bucky and Yori. I hope that friendship is redeemed. They have really good chemistry on screen. Overall, really good film and sound quality. It really does feel like a Marvel movie, and I'm really excited to see more episodes. So that's it for the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Tune in next week for another video on episode 2. I'll try to release them. I'll give you the weekend to kind of watch the episode, maybe watch it a few times, and then I'll put it hopefully an episode up by the following Monday. So don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment on anything that I might have missed or some other content you would like to see Non-Toxic Nerd cover. So that's it for today's episode. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.